And hello once more, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of the Druids Dozen. My name's John, known in certain circles as the Rock Druid, and I'm a bit of a radio DJ. Got two regular shows. There's the BCFM Sunday Rock Show. It's been running for about 15 years now on BCFM radio in Bristol. That's 93.2 FM, and it's now syndicated around the world via the Rock Radio Network. And then there's the Rock Druid show that goes out on Astro Radio, which is coming up to its 200th edition, and it's been running about 4 years, and yeah, goes out 4 or 5 times a week on the Rock Druid, and hosted on Mixcloud, etc. So yeah, this is video, something I started last year in lockdown just to kill a bit of time, and it's got a small but very small but very loyal following, where I kind of raid my record collection and just chat about some of the items that I pulled out the racks, nearly always at random. So without further ado, we shall kick off with some Southern Boogie, and we shall have this Molly Hatchet, No Guts, No Glory, 1981. Where's the front? There is the back. Slide this out, we have lyrics, band photo, etc. Now I just want to check who did the cover artwork on this. Do you know? It doesn't actually say. Oh, yes, it does. It says on the thing. It's that bloke Boris, whoever Boris happens to be. But anyway, one of his. And I do like the old cover artwork, you know. Any sort of like taking a band that's kind of normally associated with Stetson cowboy hats and good whole down home rock and roll, and turning you into a load of fantasy barbarian warriors. That's fine by me. But again, Molly Hatchet did a lot of that on their cover. Kind of, you know, Boris is, I can't remember who he is, I don't know who he is properly, but I do know he's probably most famous for doing the 70s and 80s book covers for the Conan the Barbarian novels. But anyway, Molly Hatchet, one of the great Southern Boogie bands, you know, probably second only to Lynyrd Skynyrd in fame and brilliance, and in places I'll admit I prefer Molly Hatchet to Lynyrd Skynyrd. Molly Hatchet were a bit heavier than Skynyrd ever were. They could lean on it a bit and learn how to kind of give a bit of kind of grit to their yeehaw. But this album, I find, I don't know, I like this album lots, don't get me wrong, I do like this album lots, but it doesn't quite sound right, and that's because you've got what's the guy's name now? Yeah, Jimmy Farr. There we are, Jimmy Farr. That's the bloke there. On vocals, one of a couple of albums he did with them. When he briefly replaced Billy Boy Brown or Billy Joe Brown, something like that, the normal vocalist. And don't get me wrong, the guy's got a great set of pipes on him. He can really sing, but you know, when you get so used to, you know, because I love the early Molly Hatchet, some of their later stuff I could really take or leave, but yeah, up until the mid 80s, I loved this band. You know, and when you get used to sort of like Danny Brown, whatever his name is, vocals, and then all of a sudden you get an album pops out with someone else on it, doesn't quite hang right, you know. And I'm not one of these kind of, you know, no Anderson, no Yes kind of people. I do appreciate that a band can change its vocalists and still produce good material. But it's just that, I don't know, to my ears, it sounds odd. This is a pretty good album overall, apart from that's my one gripe, which is now out the way. Cuts like Bloody Reunion, Power Play, Don't Leave Me Lonely, Don't Mess Around, Can't see something in it. Yeah, there's the old rock and roll classic Long Tall Sally covered spectacularly here. It's great. You've got how many guitarists do they actually use on this one? Yeah, you got the 3 guitars of Dwayne Rowland, Dave Hallbeck and Steve Holland, kind of doing the 3-way guitar duels and, you know, sort of swapping riffs and licks and solos. Ducktass type rhythm section. There's an uncredited keyboard player on here and I can't remember who it is. I did look it up but forgotten. And then, you know, the kind of forest vocals, they're not bad. They're not Browns, but they're not bad in their own right. Bizarrely, Molly Hatchet are still going, despite the fact that every single member that sang on their debut album is dead. And I don't think any of the people that's performed on this album are still with them. I think the earliest members go back to about 1985. But anyway, which may explain the reason why I think that Molly Hatchet aren't the same band as they're not the same band as they were. But, you know, I'm not going to take anything away from them because still done albums like this that are pretty damn good. I'll say not my favourite Molly Hatchet album. That is probably No Guts, No Glory. But still a damn fine rock and roll album. And so I apologise at the front of the show this time rather than the end. I can't play snippets or do needle drops. I don't want to risk copyright strikes and channel deletions from YouTube's algorithm, which is a pain in the bum. But if you're listening to this new when it comes out, if you tune into this week's Sunday Rock Show on BCFM, I'm opening the show with a couple of cuts from this album. So yeah, have a listen for that. But anyway, pretty good. Not the best by them, but pretty good. Molly Hatchet's Take No Prisoners, 1981. Okay, next up we got something that's new to my collection and a relatively new release. Here we are. Everybody's Famous by Tonota 80 came out tail end of last year. There's the front. There is the back. Open it up. Nice gatefold sleeve there. I shall whip out the disc for you. There is the disc. Make sure I've got everything out. Yeah. This is the booklet. Lyrics. Credits. This guy has some interesting photographs of a John F. Kennedy stamp. And then I got a letter with it. This arrived last week. Now, it says, "Hi John, it's from Maidstone in Kent, Dave Bloomingfield, who, if I believe rightly, is the lead guitarist." That's right. "Hi John, I caught your YouTube video. Reviews of Killer Sounds and Beating Hearts. Thanks for what you said about it. We think Richard Pronger is a great name too. I've sent you our other 2 CDs for your ears. Talked about their Jones Jr. for Chips EP, which was their debut EP, which I'm going to come to fairly soon. I'll probably get that next week or the week after up here for you. And then it says where are we? Everybody's Famous is their latest EP that they're self-released, and because it came out just as the COVID virus early last year, just as the COVID virus was breaking, it's not been very well heard because they didn't get a chance to promote it. I also called them young, and they said they're not young. They said their combined ages will take a single person back to the Victorian era. They're hoping to get back into the studio again in the next few months, as long as the world events allow. Cheers, Dave. I like letters like that, give it a bit of a personal touch. Well, guys, if it's any consolation, you not being young guys, go back to the Victorian era, my band Alien Stashed In, if you put our ages together, we're talking pre-Victorian, we're talking Battle of Trafalgar, 1805, or thereabouts. So, you know, as far as we're concerned, you are young whippersnappers. Anyway, but on to this album. This arrived, and I've liked Tonota 80. The album, Beating Hearts, was pretty good. It's one that I play a lot. And then these arrived, and I can safely say that the band have managed to uphold the quality of their music through to this album and to the EP as well. But to this album, it's just a sweet bit of kind of slightly punky, kind of slightly off the wall rock, bit left field maybe. Just a cracking set of tracks. My favourite cut on here so far, bearing in mind I've only had this about a week, so I've played it through a couple of times, and you know, I'm beginning to familiarise myself with it, although, you know, certain tracks are, you know, and every time I play it, different tracks jump out. At the moment though, my favourite cuts are Coffee in My Veins, which is quite an up-tempo kind of number, and Pigs Will Fly, which has a cracking riff in it. But overall, the opening cut, Caramel, as well, pretty heavy. But overall, the album is sweet. Nothing to fault it whatsoever. There's three guys out of Kent that are doing their own thing, and kind of becoming underground rock heroes because they're ploughing their own way in the world. So it's out on their own debut, Moving Change Records. It is available through places like Bandcamp and good download sites, or if you contact the band yourself via their Facebook or, well, I said MySpace there, but their Facebook pages or anything, no doubt they'll flog you a physical copy. But overall, sweet record from a band that shows a lot of promise, and if you ever come to Bristol, guys, I will be there having a good boogie. Okay, next up, talking about boogie, bit of new wave of British heavy metal for you. Boogie, new wave of British heavy metal. New wave of British heavy boogie? Was that a thing? But anyway, here we go. This is Spider, Raise the Banner, 1985, I think. 86. Anyway, there, I'll look on the sleeve in a minute. Precision Record and Tapes label. There's the front. There's the back with Spider in their glory. Whip this out. 1986. Yeah, there's the disc. You can see Precision Record and Tapes, which I think is Pie Record and Tapes. I think this is the old Pie label that were kind of most prominent back in the early 70s, and had a habit of signing up people like Genesis, Status Quo and David Bowie, not backing them at their full potential and then letting them disappear off to find fame and fortune on other labels. Yeah, Spider's final album to date. Spider do get together occasionally, although as far as I'm aware there's not been any new material since this. So the third and final Spider album, and I'll be honest with you, out of the three it's my least favourite, and I'm not knocking it for being a poor album. It's just that the first album, Rock and Roll Gypsy, is a raw kind of, you know, hungry young band. That's followed up by Rough Justice, which is a superb piece of heavy rock and roll. A great album, and as our bands often find, when following up a great album, it's hard. And I think, this album, although it's quite good in its own right, loses a bit for, following such a great record as Rough Justice. Now, if you don't know, Spider, British heavy metalers, but rather than do the old, we like Black Sabbath, knuckle dragger, kind of, not called Black Sabbath followers, knuckle draggers, but that kind of perceived concept of heavy metal. These guys had two huge influences, Status Quo and Slade. And if you can imagine Status Quo and Slade, both bands at their height in the early 70s, on stage giving it rise together, that's roughly what Spider sound like. Like I said, this album, not quite as engaging as the other two, but still pretty sweet. Highlights on here include Gimme Gimme It All, Bad Boys, Mind, Heart, Body and Soul, and Games in the Park, Rock Tonight. It's all kind of pretty good. It's pretty relentless. It's just fun. I'm trying to think who did the album cover on this. Variation on the Iwo Jima banner raising artwork, sort of picture on the cover. By a guy called Ian Gibson. Got quite a few albums that play on that trope. I'll get a few more out, and I know one of them, Status Quo's in the army now. Oh, sod it, that album deserves a slagging anyway. So yeah, but yeah, pretty sweet. If you've not heard Spider, I would recommend that you start with Rough Justice or Rock and Roll Gypsies, and and get this as kind of like your third choice. But it's not bad overall, and if it's the only Spider album you can find, give it a listen. You may enjoy. Yeah, Raise the Banner by Spider from 1986. Okay, now I've got one listener, and I keep forgetting your name. I should really make a note of it. But one viewer, sorry, on YouTube, that keeps asking me to recommend him some goth and industrial. So I've dived into that section of my collection for you today. And here we go. This is an Italian band, Strip in Midi side, and their album Your Stripping Experience. There's the front. There's the back. Released on the New Model label, should you need to look it up. One of my favourite record labels, New Model label. Some really interesting stuff. Pop this open. There is the disc. Nothing to see behind the disc because it's one of those sleeves. Whip this out. Here is the booklet. There are the band, looking very dark, gothic and industrial. I'll let you read that for yourself. That's the band's mission statement. Okay, you got that? And there's some rather cryptic comments. Not comments. Album credits or something. I'm trying to say. And the obligatory. There's the obligatory press release that came with it. Now, Stripping Midi side, they're out of Italy. I don't know, Eboli in Italy, that's right. I do know where they came from, Eboli. And like I said, industrial goth kind of stuff. They kind of got elements about them that are a little bit a little bit almost like new wave, almost orchestral manoeuvres in the dark in places, but kind of toned down, given a gothic wash with a bit of a kind of industrial backbeat. Makes for a sweet little record, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, I hadn't played this for a couple of years until I dragged this out a couple of days ago and gave it a spin for today's show. And you know, it kept me engaged for the full sort of like 40 minutes playing time. Cuts like a sweet bastard. Your Midi side yesterday. Sorry, every day's like this. Speak up. Vintage improvisation. Sweet. You got the dark, deep vocals that go like this. You know, kind of Michael Eldridge style vocals. Sorry, I'm trying to do a Michael Eldridge. Tried to do Michael Eldridge and end up doing Winston Churchill. Yes, indeed I did. But anyway, God, just feel Winston Churchill fronting the Sisters of Mercy. That's a sound I'll have trouble getting out of my imaginary ear, because it's in there now. Yeah. Oh God, I'm trying to think. Was it like it's going to be? Oh God, Mother Russia, lay down, 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 down on my black planet. What was that effect, you know? It's 1959. Yes. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'll get on with this. Yeah, the sweet album. Recommend it for all that people that like kind of industrial dance rock. All those that like a bit of goth. It'll tick all those boxes for you. It's even got enough kind of hard rocky, I wouldn't call it metal, but enough hard rocky moments to kind of make it interesting, or kind of, you know, for the more sort of like traditional headbanger. So I recommend this record. I will play it on the beaches, I will play it in the towns and in the fields. I will not stop playing this record. Yeah, so I'm one of these people, once I get an idea in my head, it just hangs in there and can take over. Anyway, yeah, stripping Midi side with your stripping experience. Came out in 2010. This one came out, and don't know what the band have done since. I know they've got at least one other album, but this is pretty good indeed. Okay, next up, a bit of guitar heroism. Or is it kind of just a break? I don't know. With the Michael Schenker group, you know, some of these people have their own bands and own groups, and you look at them and you think, yeah, that's a solo project. That's them whittling all over the place. But with the Michael Schenker group, I tend to get the impression they are actually a group that's led by Michael Schenker, because you do get things like keyboard solos and all that kind of thing on it. Anyway, this is Built to Destroy from 1983. There is the front. There is the back. Whip this out. Nice artsy photos, lyrics, credits, etc. Now, this album is the one that marks the return of come on, get in there, John. It does not want to go home. There we go. This album is the one that marks the return of vocalist Gary Barden to the MSG The Fold after a short-lived, interesting but inevitably disastrous flirtation with former Rainbow Man Graham Bonnet. It's a compared with some of their earlier albums, yeah, things like MSG, the Michael Schenker group, the eponymous debut album, and even the Graham Bonnet fronted album, The Salt Attack. This one comes over a little bit more polished, a little bit softer in outlook. Although when Gary Barden left again and they brought in Rob McCauley and became the McCauley Schenker group, they really went sort of like almost AOR. This isn't that bad. there is still plenty of kind of Schenker-esque atomic guitar work and some heavy ripping to kind of keep keep the metalheads happy. Although it doesn't quite bite as much as those first couple of albums did, or the Live at the Buddha Can, the Cozy Power drum solo, for example. But anyway, overall this is pretty good. My favourite car on here, funny enough, and no disrespect to Gary Barden, is Captain Nemo, a rather little widdly, sweet instrumental, showing off what some of Michael Schenker's best licks and tricks. Dogs of War is a pretty good number. Still love that little devil. It was a great rock and roller. Yeah, Systems Fading is a bit of a kind of, again, great tune. But say production wise, it's a bit overly polished for my liking. Who did produce this? Lewis Austin with Michael Schenker. So sorry, Michael, you've over polished this one too much. But overall, it's pretty sweet. The rest of the band on here is Chris Glenn on bass, Seb McKenna, the old Axe Harvey drummer, and a guy called Andy Nye, who I'm not aware of off the top of my head, on keys. Sweet album. Classic car lovers will probably wince at Michael Schenker putting his Flying V through the rear window of a Mercedes 450 SL. And the classic guitar lovers will probably wince at the breaking of a classic Flying V. Although the chances are it's probably a mock-up stunt guitar. People that had reputations for destroying their guitars, like Richie Blackmore, used to use cheap copies for destroying on stage, and very rarely, if any, the original. You leave that to Pete Townsend and Jimi Hendrix. But anyway, so 1983 this came out. Not my favourite Michael Schenker Group album, but it's still a Michael Schenker Group album, and I've got a lot of respect for Michael Schenker as a guitarist, so yeah, sweet. Okay, next up we're going to have one of my musics from albums from a band that originated in some place you don't normally associate with heavy metal. Nephelium and Coils of Entropy, and these guys originated from Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. There is the front. I'll show you the sleeve better in a minute. There is the back. Pop this open. There's behind the disc. There is the disc. So 2012 I think this one came out. There's the Loud Tracks record business card. Because it's on Loud Tracks Records. Released in association with the Heavy Metal Association of Canada. You've got a booklet here. Lyrics, sleeve notes, you've got a bit of a short story in the middle which kind of spins out. Nice bit of a dark horror, twisted horror tale. More lyrics. No band pictures or anything. Oh, is there a band picture at the end here? No. Just credits, etc. If you want to have a look at the rather cool front cover, it's there. Yeah, now this lot formed in Dubai back in the early 2000s. While they were over in their native land, they released a couple of EPs. How exactly they ended up in Canada, I don't know. But they relocated to Canada and recorded this album here. What happened to them after this, I don't know. But I do know in 2012 they brought out this, and it's pretty sweet. It's death metal. No bones about it. It's brutal, it's grindy. It's, you know, got the pig grunt vocals and, you know, everything you expect from a good death metal, but it's done well. I mean, I find a lot of these kind of, you know, death and black metal bands can fall into being a bit generic at times, just because there's so much of it out there. You know, if everyone was playing 12-bar Boogie, 12-bar Boogie would become very generic. This, say, is very much black metal, although there's enough kind of interesting moments in here, especially on the title cut, which is the closing cut, and tracks like Hellborn, to keep it above, you know, keep it above cliche. Like I said, it's heavy, it's sweet, there's some fantastic guitar work on here, and overall makes for a damn good record that all fans of extreme metal and death, etc., which will add to their collection. Yeah, Nephelium, Coils of Entropy from 2012. Good shit. Okay, we're going to have a bit from my very obscure collection. I know a lot of the stuff I show on here is obscure anyway, but this is from my very obscure collection. Don't even know that much about it, but it's Bloodstorm by Bloodstorm. Now, not to be confused with any other band called Bloodstorm. Oh, it's called First Blood by Bloodstorm. Sorry, I forgot the titles down there somewhere. I keep missing that. Yeah, not there. Bloodstorm's one of these band names. You know, if I had a band company with me called Bloodstorm, which I think I might have done with these, I'd turn around and say, you know, change your name, guys. There's so many. If you go to the Encyclopedia Metallicum and just type in Bloodstorm, you get about 5,000 entries. Bloodstorm, great name for a band. Thing is, there's so many Bloodstorms that you know, you don't notice. But anyway, there's the front. There is the back. Just a little 4-track EP. There is literally nothing on the back of the sleeve. It's just a one-side printed piece of paper. Open this up. Couple of bad resolution live pictures. Look like to be shot at, I would hazard a guess and say that's the Fiddlers Club in Bristol, because these guys are a Bristol band. So 2011 this came out. And this was after kind of over a year or so they'd done a demo tape, and they had been doing gigs with Gamma Bomb. Beyond that, I don't know. There's a guy called Tom who with a contact phone number, but there's no other details of anything on the either on the press release or on the. I meant to show you the disc, didn't I? There's the disc, self-release job. Yeah, that's all the information I've got. This came out, I think I had them in the studio for a chat. That's where I might have mentioned that Bloodstorm is a pretty shitty name for a band, and well, a bit cliche name for a band, and then vanished. Don't know where they went to. Shame, because they've left behind a quite sweet little EP. It's very thrash metal, very kind of, you know, following in the footsteps of Bristol Legends Onslaught and that kind of thing. Hints of Slayer in here, touches of Metallica and Megadeth. You know, maybe even bands like Death and Nuclear Assault, maybe. Only 4 cuts. First Blood, Don't Cry, Hate Is in the Heart, and Spitting on Your Hollow Grave. Like the last of which I think is the standout cut on the album. Has some production's not bad, done at the RS Studios. Yeah, mentions a band called Unknown Fear, who were around about the same time again. Don't know whatever happened to them on the back here, but that's about it really. Yeah, gonna be one of those ones that, you know, there's probably only a couple of dozen copies of this ever made, and well, flogged at the back of gigs, etc. So it's going to be like hen's teeth to find. Hardly any online acknowledgements of them, just a few old gig listings. But if you ever do find a copy and you're into your kind of thrashing metal, check it out. It's quite sweet, and I think you may like. Yeah, 2011, First Blood by Bloodstorm. Next up, something completely different. This is Sky 3 by Sky. There is the front. There is the back. Pop this open. Massive, great big load of sleeve notes across there. Just a plain blue inner sleeve, and if I pop this out, there we go, the records there. Now, Sky were a very interesting project. They were formed by 2 classical guitarists, and not just any 2 classical guitarists, it was John Williams and Kevin Peake, who are probably 2 of the greatest names in contemporary classical guitar music, ranking along the names of like Antonio Segovia as being masters of the old Spanish classical guitar. They recruited a couple of other people. Steve Gray on keyboards, a concert pianist, who's, I think this is one of his Beethoven Concerto recordings, is deemed as one of the seminal pieces in the classical recording repertoire. Then you've got on drums, you've got Tristan Fry, probably best known as again a classical percussionist, and I think the London Symphony Orchestra he was with at the time, but he's done solo classical percussion albums and guested with orchestras all over the world. Definitely, you know, one of the top men in orchestral percussionisms. Then on bass guitar and tuba, believe it or not, Herbie Flowers. Now, probably best known for his work with people like T-Rex and David Bowie, but Herbie Flowers himself was a classically trained tuba player before falling into the vices of rock and roll. So what we have here is 5 classically trained musicians doing a strange blend of progressive rock and classical music. This album came out in 1981. The band's probably best known for its Sky 2, the album before this, that spawned a massive UK hit with a track called Toccata, which was Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, kind of given a kind of rock and roll treatment, with rather than being played on an organ, it's got twin guitarist duty on it. this is the follow-up album to that, and with the exception of a cut called Sarabande, which is a handle variation on a traditional Spanish handle arrangement of a traditional Spanish dance. This was one of the first albums I did that's all original compositions. Everything's kind of written for the band. And overall it's a pretty sweet record. It takes some getting used to, because you've got to realise that these guys aren't rock musicians, these are classical musicians. And although they're playing in a rock styling, the classical approach tends to be a bit more disciplined. So you've not got any of that, especially from Tristan Farr on the drums. I mean, drummers that I know really don't like him in Sky, because they say he's too disciplined. He fails to capture the swing. I don't know, on places on here he doesn't do that badly, but I can understand where they're coming from. You know, the Peake and Kevin Peake and John Williams on the guitars, you want them to let go a little bit. You want to hear, yes, they do play solos, but they're kind of, looks like they've been written note for note, and they probably have been. And you really just want them to kind of open up and let rip. But sadly they don't, you know. But, you know, it doesn't fall down the great big gaping pit of pompousness that it could have done, and it manages to sort of like just about skirt the shoals of self-indulgence to make for quite an interesting listen. Not my favourite Sky album. I admit I prefer Sky 2, the one before this, and you know, but it's not without merit. And if you're into your kind of prog, or just want to hear something that's a little bit different from the norm, check out Sky. You know, this album's a good place, though I'll recommend Sky 2 as the first place to start. This one is worth a listen as well. Yeah, Sky 3, 1981. Okay, another CD and another local band to Bristol. Here we are. This is We Are Tokyo and Bright Lights from 2009. This came out. There is the front. There is the back. There's behind the disc. There is the disc. So it's a self-release one. Just got a little folded inlay. A couple of pictures of the band, and that's on the back. Frustrating because I want to know more. I'd like to be able to tell you, oh, that's a nice solo from such and such, or what you call its vocals are pretty cool, but you know, for some reason they decided not to. Anyway, Bristol indie band, alt rock band, however you want to call it. They're quite sweet, they're quite poppy, they're quite commercial, very engaging. Saw these live a couple of times back in the day, and as far as I'm aware, this is the only thing they released. 4-track EP, the tracks Colourblind, Perfect Hands, XY, and a Victor I. Of which I'll turn around and say Perfect Hands is probably my favourite cut on here and the standout number, but it's alright. It's not, again, you know, this is not earth shattering. This isn't an essential add to anyone's collection, although it's one that I would recommend giving a listen if you get a chance. Funny enough, when over the last couple of months, now that kind of charity shops are open, I've been out charity shopping for various bits and pieces. I'm sick of eating charity shops when I pass. I've seen a few copies of this floating around in Bristol. So if you're in Bristol and you fancy checking it out for yourself, they did have one in the St Peter's Catholic charity shop up on Church Road in Bristol. So stick your head in there, and if it's still there, I recommend that you grab it. But overall, it's sweet, nothing amazing. It kind of does what it says on the tin. It looks indie rock, it sounds indie rock, it is indie rock. But it's quite sweet, and although, like I said, I don't know whatever happens to the band. Obviously they're about to set the world on fire with this EP, because as far as I'm aware, this is the only thing they released. But hey, like I always say, bands like these and the aforementioned Bloodstorm, you've left behind something that's quite sweet for people like me to talk about 10, 12 years down the line. So you've achieved something out of your musical career. Yeah, We Are Tokyo, Bright Lights, 2009. If you can find a copy, give it a listen. Okay, next up we'll have a bit of a classic. Here we are, Leftoverture by Kansas, 1977. There's the front. There is the back. No lyrics or anything or in the sleeves. Just slide this out. Kashina Records. Now that's an unusual one. Wasn't he Larry Kashina used to do the American Concert Series or something? US Telly? Back in the day? I don't know. But anyway, Kashima Records. Yeah, manufactured in the USA, so anything on the run out grooves on this? No. Now, this is probably Kansas's best known record. This is the one with their big hit, Carry On My Wayward Son, on it. It's the opening cut. It's you know, I don't really think, you know, if you haven't heard Carry On My Wayward Son, it's one of the great US kind of, probably the best known US progressive rock track, because Kansas, I don't think the Americans back in this day really got prog rock. You know, I can't think of a band that came out of the States that had that kind of Genesis, Yes, King Crimson, Vanderbilt Generator vibe to them. It was all stuff like This Lot and Styx and Star Castle and all that kind of big, what we would call over the UK, pomp rock. But anyway, this is a good album, probably their best known record, got their biggest hit on it. Overall the album's pretty sweet. Kicks off with Carry On My Wayward Son, carries on in the same vein through some pretty sweet tracks. The Wall, What's On My Mind, Miracles Out of Nowhere. Then gets into the second side. You've got Questions of My Childhood, Shane Anthem, and then you've got the closest that well, a Song for America was about a 10-minute epic, but you've got an epic cut called Magnum Opus. Playing time is something incredible. Oh no, it's only 8.5 minutes. I thought it was longer than that, but it sounded longer than that when I played this album earlier. No, it's sweet. Yeah, it's one of those kind of lose track of time, get wrapped up in it kind of songs. Yeah, not much else to say. Performances are pretty good. Production by a guy called Jeff Glicksman does the job. I like the artwork, even if I do think the bloke's face is a bit iffy. Don't know who did it, but like I said, because this one hasn't got an inner sleeve with any more detailed notes other than what I've shown you. But overall, not bad. Very good place to start if you've not experienced Kansas before. And yeah, but there again, I think most people that have heard Kansas will have this track in this album in their collection in one form or another anyway. But you know, I'm not going to say I'm not going to recommend it, because I am going to recommend it. Yeah, Leftoverture 1977 by Kansas. Good stuff. Brings us on to our last CD of the day. And here we go. Violence Marred by Peace by the Rick Ray Band. There's the rather cool front cover. There's the back cover. Open it up. There's the disc. And there's no, it's only a plain folding in the sleeve. Again, self-released by these guys. There's the credits on back of the sleeve there. Now this came out in 2008. Now Rick Ray Band are a band out of Ohio over there in the US. Now I don't know what it is they've got in the water over there, but some of my favourite kind of strange American kind of prog space rock bands come from that area. There's oh, what you call it, Head something or other, Church of Head. There's the fantastic Quark Space, and in a bit more of a mainstream kind of vein, but still damn fine and pretty out there, are the Rick Ray Band. Band that's been together since the 1980s, formed around Mr. Rick Ray himself, who does guitar, joined by Sam Gloroso on drums, Jack Ambrose on bass, Alex Harkin on vocals, Gary Wyvern on brass, and sax player as well. Yeah, Nick Schultz. Yeah, make for a damn fine band. Hints of early Rush. You know, we're talking about 90125 Caressa Steel era Rush. You know, kind of hints of some, you know, some of the sort of trippier moments of Hawkwind maybe. Very much a kind of underground, anarchic, freedom to rock kind of band. This lot, they're kind of local heroes around their part of the States. They opened up for bands like Blue Oyster Cult, etc. And have a fair following, although they are very much local heroes and not really well known outside the Columbus, Ohio area, which is a shame because they're pretty sweet. This is the only album I've got by them. When I was a bit shocked to discover these guys have got about 20 records out, 20 CDs, albums, whatever you want to call it, have been released over the years. I really need to get my hands on some more of their stuff because I like what I hear. This one, let's have a look. Sergeant Pepper Spray is probably the standout track. Came out in 2008, this. Those of you remember there was an infamous incident about 10-12 years ago in the States of a peaceful protest and a young girl kind of refusing to move, so a copper just walks up and unloads a load of pepper spray into her eyes, nearly blinding her. Violence Marred by Peace, 50,000 volts, Lunatic Serenade, Fans of the Flames. They're all really good songs, you know. But you know, and I'm sure that, you know, a decent record label could have taken the Rick Ray Band and made them into probably better names. But knowing these kind of musicians, I'm only presuming here, but there are certain types of musicians that are genuinely in it for the music, doing their own thing, and any idea of a record company telling them what to do can go swivel. So yeah, and I got a feeling that this is where the Rick Ray band come from. Please do check them out. So this is the only album I possess at the moment. I do intend to rectify that. And yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, and yeah, go check out their back catalogue because they are worth a listen, definitely. Yeah, Violence Marred by Peace, the Rick Ray Band, 2008. Okay, last up, we'll have a bit of meat. Here we go, Meatloaf. This is Deadringer from 1981. There is the front. There's a rather sweaty Mr. Loaf himself on the back. Lyrics. More lyrics and credits. Yep, the long delayed second album by Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell, came out in 1976. Then Meatloaf and the legendary Jim Steinman, may rest in peace, ran into a load of difficulties. Meatloaf had some throat problems, there was contractual problems with the label, etc. So what would have been the second album, Bad for Good, came out as a Jim Steinman solo record. Deal with that a good few episodes ago. And then they eventually got around and wrote this as the new Meatloaf project. And again, Meatloaf's got a cracking voice on him, one of the greatest rock vocalists of all time. Jim Steinman, known as sadly passed away a couple of months ago, known as the rock and roll Wagner, writing his mini rock operas. Put the two together, you have music made in heaven. Chuck in, check who's playing on this. Yeah, chuck in things like the piano of Rory Britton, Nicky Hopkins, who was a Who's pianist, also on additional keyboards. Yeah, Todd Rundgren doing guest appearances. You have got a record to die for. Probably not as well known as the Bad Out of Hell album, and maybe not quite as good, but still damn worthy. Best known track on here is what's it called? Deadringer for Love itself, but that was kind of a jerk with Cher, one of his big hit singles. But other point highlights on here is the opening cut, the Anthelmic Peel Out. Driving song, about 8 minutes long, absolutely superb. I'm gonna love her for both of us. I'll kill you if you don't come back. A heartbreaking sort of like song of loneliness and despair. Everything is permitted. Again, a kind of just a sweet little ballad. That turns around and says, look, basically it's a song about atheism. You don't need God to tell you what to do. You make your own rules, and society makes your rules, and everything is permitted within reason. Yeah, this is a great album that I think, sad as the years have gone on, become a bit overlooked in the Meatloaf canon. Shame, because it's pretty damn good. Again, a fantastic artwork from who did the artwork? Bernie Wrightson, who did a lot of the other Meatloaf album covers. fantastic artwork, and just makes for a sweet record that worth revisit. If you've heard it before, worth a revisit. If you haven't heard it before, I think Meatloaf began and ended with Bad Out of Hell. Check it out, it's great. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll put links to the radio shows in the comments section, which is okay. For the missus, this is the finger dance. It's down there on YouTube. It's over there on Facebook. Feel free on either platform to like, comment, share. I'm not after making money out of all this, am I? No, I'm not. I just want to share my love of music and talk about music to some cool people, which I do in places. So, so thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you want to know when the next, so you can be aware when the next one's coming out. And until next week, peeps. I love every single last one of you, and I'm out of here. Bye.